Okay, I do believe that we are live. So hello everyone who is joining us for our special presentation here, our Faculty Live Learn presentation. We are, the sponsoring organization is the SAIL program, or the Summer Academy to Inspire Learning. We're based here at the University of Oregon. And as you may know, we host these wonderful weekly Faculty Live Learn presentations where we invite University of Oregon faculty to come and share about their work and their research and their classes, that you can get an idea of what it's like to be in college and the kinds of wonderful people you would get to work with. My name is Megan Faulkner. I'm the program manager for the SAIL program. And we're really honored to have actually a lot of special guests with us today. I'll begin with our faculty members, but you'll be able to meet some of the students who are also here later on in our program. So first of all, we have Professor Dorothee Ostmeier, and this is the History 211 students who are joining us today. And they're going to share a little bit about their project, 1913, Suffrage, Labor, and the New Woman. And we'll talk about how these historical debates, how they study them, how they enact them. We also have Professor Kevin Hatfield today, who is going to talk about the Reacting to the Past program and the curriculum. And we also have senior instructor Matthias Vogel, who, if you're with us for the summer programs, you will recognize as a wonderful master chef as well. He wears many hats. And he'll explain how the freshman interest groups, or the FIG programs, enrich UO student learning and how you can get involved with those. And of course, our faculty members' backgrounds are extensive and super interesting. Professor Ostmeier is a professor of German folklore and public culture and the head of theater arts at the U of O. She's published widely on gender, Jewish studies, and fantasy culture. And this particular Reacting to the Past course demonstrates her passion for developing meaningful experiential learning options to help sharpen students' critical skills to face society's urgent need for creative and engaging minds. So you'll get to hear some more from her. Kevin Hatfield is the Assistant Vice Provost for Undergraduate Research and Distinguished Scholarships, and the Director of Academic, Residential, and Research Initiatives. So if you were involved at all in the Undergraduate Research Symposium, you may recognize him, or if you plan to be involved this spring. And Matthias Vogel is a faculty in residence, which I'm sure he will tell you more about what that means later on, is a senior instructor too, and a language coordinator for the Department of German and Scandinavian. So, so happy to have all of them with us, and really just want to encourage everyone to use that chat feature if you have any questions, and please enjoy all of the wonderful things we have for you today. So Kevin, rather, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Megan, for the introduction, and it's an honor for me to be part of our presentation today. We always love the opportunity to showcase Reacting to the Past, which is a wonderful curriculum that you can engage at many different levels at the University of Oregon. And so I'm going to share a little bit about RTTP, or Reacting, at the University of Oregon, ways that you can get involved. And I will say at the outset that once either a student or a faculty member, at least in my experience, participates in Reacting to the Past, it's hard not to become a convert and kind of a true believer. We've had students that have created a Reacting to the Past club at the University of Oregon so they can continue to play games on their own outside of class. We've also had an opportunity to offer some micro games as part of the SAIL program in the summer. We had an Athens besieged game, which was a lot of fun. We played. So the Reacting to the Past curriculum has been at the U of O for about 10 years now. And we offer it every fall as part of the first year interest groups, or the FIG program. This year we have 4 FIGs that incorporate a Reacting to the Past course within the FIG. It's also recently available in the Clark Honors College at the upper division level. And it's also offered by the Department of History at both the lower and the upper division level. And so there are opportunities to take multiple Reacting to the Past courses at the U of O during one's undergraduate career. The thing that I really love about Reacting to the Past is that it's a radically different way of studying the past and kind of learning about historical actors. And it really kind of flips the classroom. It centers the students. The faculty become the game masters, the students in the roles that they play, which you'll have an opportunity here in a moment to talk with the students and see a video of a current game that's underway. But the students really run the games in character as the roles that they've been assigned. There's often a preceptor or an undergraduate who is a veteran of having played the games in a particular course that comes back as kind of a coach who's working with the game master to help students as they kind of navigate the games. And these are very elaborate games. They can last 4 to 5 weeks. In general, they have about 25 to 30 unique characters that have very elaborate role sheets with their own victory objectives, both individually, but also for the faction or their group that they're part of. And they're all built around these really challenging and often tragic moments, also transformative moments in history. So it could be built around a treaty council. The games that we play are built around treaty councils with the Cherokee and the Iroquois. It could be built around a trial. There's a Trial of Galileo game, a Trial of Anne Hutchinson game. It could be built around other times of unrest, social movements. But it's really an opportunity for students, rather than just kind of learning from a textbook and getting the sense of a very lineal understanding of history, that A caused B, B caused C, it's all very inevitable. This makes it very contingent. It puts that decision-making and the thinking back into the hands of the students as they argue and negotiate and broker deals. Some of the games have assassinations and bribery and double crossing, but it's all this way of having students think through the real historical events. So there can be outcomes that are different from what actually happened in the past, as long as they're historically plausible and kind of intellectually sound. I know the games that we've played always have a different outcome, and it's because students in real time in their roles are debating, they're negotiating, they're mediating, and so it's really just a radically different way to think about studying the past. And students can be creative. They're not simply memorizing a script. They're actually trying to enact a pretty complicated role in a way that's going to be different. If you played the game 100 times, every time it's going to be different, just because the dynamics of the games are so active. The last thing I'll mention is that there are over 300 games now that some have been published, others are still in prototype form. As game authors, faculty and students also co-author games. They're kind of test played across the country at colleges and universities, and we have an opportunity to give feedback to the game authors to continue to improve the games or develop new roles. And so that's another really exciting part, is you can also not just be part of React to the Past as a student taking a course, but you can become part of this larger kind of national consortium of students and faculty that are involved in creating games and developing games. So again, we hope you enjoy your time learning about RTTP in our session today. And if you do come to the UVO, which we hope you do, we want to see you in an RTTP class. So thank you so much.
Oh my goodness, Kevin, that was fabulous. I really think some of our students have perhaps participated in one of these at SAIL last year during our residential program. I know you led one, so I really, as you said, I really hope everyone gets the opportunity to be involved. I would love, so calling all teachers here, if this is something that sounds really exciting to you, I want to turn it over to Professor Ostmeier to give you kind of more of an overview of what exactly period of history we're talking about today.
Yes, hi, thank you so much for being here. It is exciting to talk about History 211 because this year there were spectacularly engaged students, and we all love to share with you what we have done in our class. So in this fall, during the time of major health crises, Black Lives Matter protests, political and social upheaval, we talked about a similar time in 1913. Protests, life in our surrounding, and protests in our classroom. As Kevin said and explained to us, these are student-driven historical role-playing games. Kevin and I were together trained at one point at Barnard College several years ago, where we played different games, but we hang out in Greenwich Village. And so, Kevin, I still love to think about our time there. For the teachers, I want to show you, these are the books we are using in this class. The strike in Paterson, 1913, took place at the same time at Greenwich Village, and the union activists really went to Greenwich Village in order to find supporters for the very tragic strike situation in Paterson, New Jersey. These are the texts we study, or the authors we study. And in fact, most of the authors we study are later coming to our class in character. Students present the characters they studied before. And after 3 weeks or so, our classroom changes. It changes totally, because suddenly we are in a restaurant. And we have drinks and snacks, but of course, not this year, because this year we had some students who were socially distanced, and we had students on Zoom, but we still managed at some points to dance. Also, they were not allowed to touch each other, but they were still dancing, this time in 21st century fashion by themselves. The students have tasks, and they fight for the women's rights to vote. They advocate for birth control. They advocate for alternative lifestyles, for social architecture, for example, public houses, in order to free women from their domestic tasks in the small family households. And they meet at the salons of the avant-garde. Now, to give you a very, very quick insight of what's going on in our live sessions. So this was Gurley Flynn talking, and Gurley Flynn is also now sitting here and will be able to answer your questions today. The IWW refers to this situation of the women garment worker strike in New York in 1909. 1911, 120 women workers burn in the Triangle Shirt Waist factory because all the doors were closed, and they had to work in closed quarters and couldn't escape. Then the Paterson strike for the silk weavers were very engaged in fighting for their rights, especially also the immigrants, who were very skilled workers and were then reduced to being parts of a machine in the modern industrialized silk industry, which brought in mechanical weaving machines. Sometimes we are singing if students are up to it. This year I was lucky because they were singing and we had violin players and they accompanied us. The suffragettes in our class, Jeannie Rogers appeared, Alice Hallam appeared, and Maud Preston appeared. And they really were fighting very vividly for the votes of women. And this was also, of course, the 100 years anniversary. So we celebrated a lot. The Bohemians, they are journalists, they are artists, they are intellectuals. And they published together in 1913 one of the journals, or one of the many journals, which is called The Masses. So here you see the original cover of a 1913 journal. And this is the journal created by our students. The painting was done by John Sloan, that means Emily in the class. And it has like 15 pages and represents the work of everyone. Max Eastman, the editor, is a student in our class, and he took the submissions, evaluated them, rewrote and collaborated with the students, and they came up with this wonderful publication. Now, yesterday was our end of the class, and that's a kind of tragic ending because, as you know, on one hand, there are liberal activists in Greenwich Village who founded in January 23rd, 1917, the Free and Independent Republic of Washington Square. The painting was done by John Sloan, who is also in our class. At the same time, President Wilson promoted the Espionage Act. All the people who were creating the masses, all the people who were engaged in all of these discussions, or many of them either had to escape, or they were imprisoned. You will see Bill Haywood, you will see, just met John Reed, you see the Masses by Max Eastman, you see Emma Goldman speaking, all of them were imprisoned in the context of the Espionage Act. So yesterday, these students had to discuss if they wanted to join the war effort or if what they would do. And so that was a tense moment in our classroom. So I hope this gives you a little sense for what happened in class. And now Matthias, I think, will talk about the FIG, because he's met the same students, but in a normal classroom and not in character, right?
I think it's the video first, but I can,
I can
go.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, shall we go ahead and show the film and then we can have a bit of a discussion?
Yeah, then it's Matthias and then discussion.
Yeah, perfect.
No, I have to go. Oh, good.
All right, so everyone, just so you know, we will have that PowerPoint also available in the description under our YouTube video so that you can access that and go back and look at all of the different points in history that are shared. And a really good other thing to think about in terms of the presentation is this wonderful video that was created of the class in collaboration with all of these History 211 students. And we also had one of our SAIL mentors help make it. So we wanted to show you what exactly it looks like to be in one of these classes. So let me go ahead and get this set up to go ahead and share this video, and we can all watch it together.
Welcome everyone to History 211 Greenwich Village game. My name is Polly Holiday, and here you are in my restaurant today to speak about yourselves, what you believe in, and what you want to accomplish. we must remember to remain respectful and not to break the law because we do have police and it would be bad if I were to lose my restaurant. So we're going to begin with introductions.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Rogers. I represent the Suffrage faction. I've grown up in Greenwich Village my whole life, and I care deeply about the struggles of working women throughout the United States.
Yeah, Emma! Woo! Woo!
Emma Goldman's the name, anarchism is the game, and that game has landed me in several jails over time, okay? Born in Lithuania, raised right here in New England. I fight for women's liberation, I fight for men's liberation, I fight for the liberation of the individual against the Leviathan that is the state and hierarchies in general. People think anarchism is a dirty word. I tell you right now, it's not a dirty word. It is essentially personal and individual liberation for the people.
I'm John Sloan. I enjoy all of your company, and I painted this for all of you. It's representative of your lives and everything you experience, and I hope I did a good job. While all of you talk, I simply paint what I get from your speeches.
Yay!
My name is Neith Boyce, and I'm a playwright. And so I write based off of my experiences as a woman with a sexual relationship. And so my submission to the masses was my play, The Prostitute, a commonplace tragedy in one act with 3 scenes. And I wrote this to show the agency that the prostitute has over her own life, how women can take agency over their sexual actions and be proud of what they do. Thank you.
Woo!
Hi, I'm Leah Schwartz. I'm a Russian immigrant, and my dream was to be an American girl, a real American girl. And after experiencing the brutal work conditions of my shirtwaist factory, I realized that goal was not going to be possible. So now I'm an organizer of the Women's Trade Union League. Yep.
Yay.
And I actively push the agenda of the Labor faction and the Socialist Party.
Way to go!
Very nice. Okay.
My name is Elizabeth Gurley Flynn. I was born in 1890. Dropped out of high school at the age of 15 in 1905 to pursue a working class revolution globally. That's what I'm currently here doing, here in Greenwich Village, New York, 1913. I'm here to organize my compatriots and my comrades to pursue a socialist revolution globally, starting here in Greenwich Village.
Hi, I am Big Bill Haywood. I founded the IWW in 1905 as a chief means for representing the labor class and creating economic and social reform.
I mean, it was a super fun class, especially like a lot of us are in a FIG, so it's like we have more than one class together, and we meet also outside of those classes like once a week. And this class kind of helped a lot of us become stronger friends. especially because we're all kind of doing like this rambunctious loud that we're all yelling at each other all the time. So it feels much more like you're hanging out with your friends than an actual like classroom, but you're also still learning a lot. Like I learned a lot about like the movement we're talking about and those things. So I think that's the biggest thing I took away from it, was how personable and friendly it all seemed.
I guess I just felt that the class, was unexpected. I've always been interested in the labor movement and the suffragette movement, so it's really good that I got to see, read some things that I never really encountered when I was researching it on my own. I liked the role play aspect of it, getting into the character. I love that a lot. Being able to have an opportunity to really use my passionate speech.
So I'm also in the FIG, and I didn't know that it was going to be a role-playing class, but once we actually started, I found that I was a lot more comfortable than I thought, and it was a lot more fun to act and get to learn at the same time. So I really liked it.
Yeah. Good.
I really like the class. I'm doing it as a part of a freshman FIG, so it's a part of the Radicals and Reformers freshman interest group. And it really matches up with the material in other classes. So we're also taking a German sexuality class, and we have like an intermediate class where we just talk about all the subjects we learned. And it really fits in with that. It's a very interactive class and has definitely made a freshman year a little more interesting.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the people's strength of one? But the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
I think that's it.
All right.
Oh, that was wonderful. I think everyone involved in that video deserves a big virtual round of applause. That was really fun to watch. Well, I think you heard a lot of students talk about the FIG program, so I'd really like to turn it over to Matthias Vogel to tell us what exactly that is and how you can get involved.
Thank you, Megan. I set my timer here so I don't speak too long. I am thrilled that you have invited me to speak. And since you asked me briefly about the faculty in residence, I'll say I'm faculty in residence in the Global Scholars Hall. That means I live with the students in an apartment in the hall, and I'm here for them. I'm actually in my office right now. I am here for them when they have questions. All they have to do is come down, knock on my door, and I have quote unquote hung out virtually with some of the students after our FIG meeting last night. And actually one of the students isn't here in the hall yet, but I walked out into the Learning Commons and showed the student, this is what the hall looks like, and this is what you will see next term when you join us. So wonderful. But I'm also thrilled to talk about the FIG program. What hides behind the acronym FIG? It's a freshman interest group, and the idea behind a freshman interest group is that students take two larger classes together, and they meet in between in what's called a college connection class. Why? Well, the U of O is a large research university, and in a large research university, it is often difficult for freshmen, first-year students to be heard, to find their way around. And so a FIG, a college connection class, offers the same group of students from one class to the other the opportunity to feel as if we are in a small liberal arts setting, even though we're surrounded by 20,000 other students. And so what Trevor and Mathilde and Al and other of the FIG students who were featured in the wonderful video have described is actually a feeling of camaraderie that has developed because they have shared, on the one hand, the History 211, the Reacting to the Past class, and also on the other hand, another lecture class, a German lecture class, German 256, that was called Sexuality. And those two classes more or less coincide historically. They're about at the same time of the end of the 19th and early 20th century, and the sexuality class looks it looks also at bohemian settings, at salons. It looks at the cultural and political landscape of modernity and examines how sexual norms were constructed over time, how people resisted them, etc., and so on. So what I did with the students in the FIG is we looked at some of the material from the sexuality class and discussed that and additional things. We discussed, for example, how the construction of homosexuality. We discussed gendering and gendered roles. And we also supported the History 211 class we had. We came together as a class. I always tell the students, once the door closes, you are in almost a sanctuary here. Nobody hears you. We can share with each other, and I hope to encourage and to foster that sense of community. And we did some improvisation activities for acting, for example. We did some breathing activities. I see some smiling faces of some of my students. I told them this is, a very stressful term, and we'll also do some exercises to control breathing, to control your approach, and just to calm your mind and go into your other classes as well, not just those two, but to go into those well prepared and ready to face reality. So one of the things, one of the goals of the FIG is to look at the material again, but also another goal to get students more comfortable with each other, training them to speak. A goal is to allow connections to develop with each other. And because we were in person, I think, and the students you will hear from in a minute, I think it actually worked in this remote setting. We were able to connect socially distanced in the classroom, 6 feet, with our masks. I wore mine, and in fact I have it here, but luckily I'm in my office, so I didn't have to put it on for you today. But everybody did put these masks on, and we were still able to connect beautifully, I think. So I have, as I mentioned, I have seen several of the students from the FIG here, and I see Trevor and Mathilde, and I see Luke, who was not in the FIG, but I want to ask all of you if you could contribute some of your thoughts as to how this FIG has helped you connect with the material, how the class, the History 211, Reacting to the Past, has helped you connect with the material and bring the material alive. I see Trevor, Mathilde, and Alex, and Luke. Why don't we start with you, though? Give you the courtesy, since you're not in my FIG, I'll ask you to go first, because I believe you're, from what I have learned, you're also a cinema studies major, and you have actually helped film some of this class. So how did this play into your approach in your major?
So, like Matt said, I'm a cinema studies major, and I'm actually a sophomore, so I'm a year older. I was a year older than a lot of my classmates, but I took this class mainly because it's really a different way of approaching history, and I was looking for something more unique, especially in these times. And but also as a cinema studies major, I was looking for opportunities to like work behind the camera, and this class was so interesting. And also Professor Ostmeier, um, Professor Ostmeier had a really interesting backstory that I thought was worthy of documenting. So I made I'm making two documentaries. I've made one already, basically about Professor Ostmeier's story and why she teaches this class. And the second one I'm doing is actually more about the students themselves. I'm trying to create more of a cause and effect with it. So the second one is it's kind of like what Angel made, but it's more like the making of what was ultimately seen. So I have more interviews with some of the other students too, and you could see me in the background of Angel's video too, filming stuff. And when we had the performance all together, it just gave me a really good narrative structure to work with. And I think you can not only show this really interesting class, but show like what kind of effect this has had on the students, like why, how they feel that they've learned differently, and yeah, basically.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Luke. And since we have more of the other students here, I would say, Megan, if our audience has any questions for them, we could funnel these questions to the students. If there are not any questions yet, please feel free to ask them via the chat. And then in the meantime, Trevor, you were Trevor, Alex, and Mathilde. You were always so cheerful and happy and excited to be in this class. So why don't you? And you were also in the. We saw you in the video. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience in the class and how the FIG paired up with that?
Yeah, I can go first. That's okay with everybody. So essentially, what I kind of got most from the class and like the FIG especially is I don't live on campus, so I didn't have like the social atmosphere to really like make friends. But I'm a very social person, so I like making friends, and I found that the FIG was a really conducive environment for that, and I think that it was for people that weren't as social as me too. Like especially like Alex and Sam and Mathilde, like I think we're all pretty good friends and we hang out outside of class. And then it actually helped me in the class as well, because I had someone that I could go to say like, hey, what do you think about this assignment? Or like, hey, like, what was your idea for this essay we have to write? And then just having those people to talk to is infinitely helpful in a classroom context. And so I think that was the thing that I got most out of our like experience.
Thank you, Trevor. Alex, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So I think the one thing I said in the video that came to my mind is the material itself. I really enjoyed, especially in the sexuality class part of the FIG. I really enjoyed learning new things and new material that I just never really knew about. I think one thing especially was the what was it called? Just the different plays like La Ronde. I loved La Ronde. I never really read plays in my free time, so getting to know that form of literature, and Venus and Furs as well. And I really enjoyed that. And in terms of the role play, I also liked the camaraderie and just being connected in two classes of the same caliber, right? Where I can talk to someone who knows and has been in sexuality, but I also can talk to them in the role play class as well. And I guess really finding my voice, so to speak. I'm not a good public speaker, but role play class, I know it's crazy. Role play class helped me a lot with that, and being able to, I guess, go on the fly and being able to be articulate and of course not now, but I guess that was the camaraderie, the finding passion in my voice and my body language. And, I probably do it all over again, right? Yeah.
Thank you. And some of the questions that are coming in on the chat for everyone, but Mathilde, I see you on my screen next, is one of them is, was it hard to get comfortable in the class at first, since not many classes role play like this one? So how, to Mathilde, but also to everybody, to all of the students here. And Mathilde, you get the first shot.
At first it was difficult for me to get comfortable with the class just because I didn't really know everyone. But with the FIG, it helped me kind of like get comfortable with everyone else. Just because oh, okay, these are my friends. I'm goofy in front of my friends. So I feel like after that part, when we got to know each other, it really was easier for me to open up and just get into character, I guess you could say. And then for the top question, it says, for students, has the FIG helped you build a community? I'd say it has, simply because I can see myself being friends with everyone in the FIG, even after these classes, even into next term or in the future. And then my favorite part of the class has to be the heckling, just because Emma Goldman and Elizabeth Gurley Flynn do not like each other at all. And it was hilarious seeing them get into it. And as Polly, I had to control their little outbursts. So that was fun. And then I'm not aware of any role play style classes at U of O, but I'm pretty sure if you contact someone that they will know the answer for you.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks. Now, I have a question for you that looks at the difference between the situation in the US versus what you have learned about Germany at the time. And that's a question from a secret guest today. And so does anybody want to take make an attempt at that?
Yeah, I could. So essentially, I guess to compare, right, you have these new expressions of sexuality and sexual expression. And I think you see it in the role play class as well with the material, like the new woman, the concept of someone who's independent of their social or economic constrictions and I guess duties, right? It's very comparative to what we learned in sexuality class as well. And in Germany, where you have these people who they don't fit in the boxes of the society at the time, and they find out ways to move outside of those boxes and to really thrive in their differences, right? I think that I think that's a suitable answer. I guess the difference really is that I guess the role play class wasn't necessarily hingent on sexuality, right? Obviously, but it was a part of it. And I think you see these different groups, these oppressed groups, really coming together and being able to, I guess, construct something in a way which is productive, I guess. So.
Wonderful. Now, Megan, how much more time do we have, or do you lead on to you want to take over and lead on to the next point, or should we discuss a few more questions?
Well, we have about 15 more minutes together, and really this is the time we set aside for our Q&A and for hearing from students. So I think this is a wonderful use of our time. I did want to just quickly point back To Kevin Hatfield, he wanted to share another resource for teachers. And then we might also start adding in some questions for that faculty could answer as well. But students, please stay on. This is so fun hearing from you. So Kevin?
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, just I thought folks might be interested in Mark Carnes, the creator of Reacting to the Past, and this was established in the year 2000 and has grown as we've been sharing. And he recently published a book called Minds on How Role Immersion Games Transform College. And just wanted folks to know about this book. It's a wonderful book for teachers as well as students. There are also books on how to create and author your own Reacting to the Past games that you can find as well. But just, again, wanted to mention along with the wonderful books that Dorothee shared, which are great examples of games that have been published because they've been played extensively after they've gone through that prototype. Have reached the state. Just wanted to mention On Fire, wonderful book that talks about reacting.
Thank you, Kevin. And we can add a link to that too in the description so people can research that on their own as well. I might start prompting us with a few questions, and whoever wants to answer them, we can get one or two people to answer them. So this is a specific time period and set of events. Someone wants to know, how are topics chosen for this particular class?
I can answer that, I think, unless like the professor does. I think that the topic is actually a pretty narrow one. It was specifically the like different social movements in Greenwich Village, New York in 1913. So it was very narrow, and then we just kind of follow the historical timeline. I think it's 8 weeks, like in game. And so the topics just tend to be like our own discourse, our own arguments. And so whatever kind of like the argument of the day is, maybe it was prompted by a discussion post or a journal article that we were supposed to read. And then through exploring that, we would kind of find out where we stand ourselves. And then we'd argue in class and we'd heckle each other. And then we'd try to, win over more people to vote for us. So it was a very narrow topic that we explored very in depth.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Trevor. Maybe one of our faculty members can pop in with how they construct these classes.
Yeah, perhaps I can chime in. There is, of course, the major book published by Mary Jane Tracy, which is very, very helpful and gives the major texts. And Mary Jane Tracy has also developed the game. So instructors have a game book, which gives us ideas how to construct the game, how to construct the debates, the parades, how to stimulate students, what to tell students, to give students ideas, what they could do. They got points for costume, they got points for special speeches, they got points for very different kinds of contributions. So there was no end to creativity and individual creativity for interpreting and advancing the role they had been given and the character they were presenting. So that is what I enjoy in this game. On one hand, we really know the historical materials, and I'm still driving down facts and students, dates, etc., etc. But then we reflect on them and transform them into our own passion. And that gives us a new access to history as well as to ourselves. And this time of the 100th anniversary of the suffrage movement, of the vote, of all this unrest, I think that inspired us, and that gave us the fire to speak in a passionate way. I don't know, Trevor, Alex, and Mathilde, and Luke, if you agree, but I think you were really inspired to think about the current situation through the lens of history.
Yeah, I think that could be a good way to get into our next question, which is a broad one, but a good one, is why take a history class? Why is studying history important? And why does it matter within the context of your education?
I can take this one. So I think it's important because a lot of lessons are learned through history, like lessons about, in this case, women's rights, and lessons in morality and science in general. Like, if we never learn history, we're just going to keep on repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again. And I think in the context of my major, it's very important because the film itself is how it's made, and really like the subject matter of the film is often defined by current historical moments, and they all they coincide with each other really well. And also at this point today, there are a lot of things that were there were a lot of problems that were also still problems back in 1913, like women's rights, labor, and all those are still problems today. They've just kind of shifted. They look differently now. But if we learn about the past, then we can take those lessons from the past and truly bring about change.
It's fantastic. Do any other students want to add in your thoughts on why this class was appealing to you, or if there was anything that surprised you or that you'll take forward into your education?
I can go. So there was a lot of things during the class that I have connected to current situations, such as the BLM movement and the Me Too movement, just because it correlates not necessarily just like what happened itself, but how similar situations are still occurring. And it's just interesting to me because I'm a political science major, so I would like to get very well informed about stuff like that, just because it did have to deal a lot with the politics side of it. So that's where my interest came in for this class.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Oh yeah, please, Alex.
I guess like the reason why I study history in general, or I guess this class too, right? It's I guess what Luke said, right? Building off what Luke said, like lessons that you can take from the past and put them in the present and the future. And I guess like essentially you, like, for example, right, with the free love movement and proponents of free love, you look at their lifestyles and what exactly they don't subscribe to in regards to a relationship, and what they do subscribe to in regards to those relationship dynamics. And you know, just as an example, right, if I wanted to pursue that type of lifestyle, what issues would I encounter? What feelings would I encounter if I were in that dynamic before deciding to go into that, right? So I think that's a big thing of what I look for in history. So if I wanted to become more politically active or such and such, what would be the, I guess, consequences of that, good or bad?
I think we also, our faculty members, I would also love to hear how you see this being situated in a student's educational journey, whether they're a history major or not.
I'm struck by this question because it's interesting. I think I could teach this class in the context of German studies, in the context of international studies, arts, general culture classes, because history is an expression of these cultural moments in history. So history is an expression of the cultural moments, yeah, in history. And I think that is what the humanities move towards, to understand that that all these fields are closely related, and we have to study intensely historical texts. We have to study intensely poetic texts. We have to study foreign languages in order to understand Emma Goldman and her experiences in Russia, in Germany, and then in Greenwich Village. As John Reed, You know, he goes to Russia, he stops over in Germany, and then he goes to Russia again because he's so frustrated in Greenwich Village. They are all frustrated in Greenwich Village and go back to Russia and Europe. So it's all, you know, our fields are connected, as well as our national identities are much more connected than we think. I think we have to move towards thinking about the concept of nation, of identity, of what am I, what is American, what is German, in a very, very different way if we want to be successful in the 21st century, personally as well as internationally. That is why I tell students they have to go to a foreign country and experience different cultures at the same time as to immerse themselves in the US world.
Yeah, and I just add and just thank you, Dorothee, and the students. The history, it's a wonderful intellectual space to wrestle with the big questions in the sciences, the humanities, in the social sciences. And that's why many of the games, although they're set in the past, they're taught by biology faculty, chemistry faculty, faculty in anthropology, psychology, because they're, as the students have mentioned, they're wrestling with ethical questions and very complex questions that sometimes are oversimplified in current discourse. And this type of a game environment allows folks to really tease out and unpack the complexities in those questions. And just a really quick example, one of the games that we play, Red Clay, which was written by Jace Weaver, a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, is a game about Cherokee removal. And he wrote the game specifically to humanize and bring more empathy into the understanding of the challenges that historical actors faced in making decisions and choosing a course of action. And what was a problem to Jace is that Cherokee removal was often presented in this very binary way. There were the villains, the Cherokees that voted for removal, and the heroes, the Cherokees, who voted against it. And it certainly wasn't that simplistic. They were all doing what they felt was in the best interest of their people, given the consequences and the circumstances they had to work in Jacksonian America. And so it's a way to kind of bring empathy and humanizing and really helping folks to understand the complexity of a situation like that can inform present discussions and present dialogue as well. So.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Kevin and everyone. I think we have a very practical question. How do you have to be really good at memorization, or is it like being in a play, or what kinds of preparation is helpful in this type of a class?
I can answer this one. So for me, I'm not good at memorization, like homework and like tests and stuff. Like it takes me, it's pretty hard for me to like just remember like rote facts and dates and details. And I did I think I did really, really well in this class. And so it's not a question of like memorization. It's more a thing of like knowing your arguments and knowing your character, because you're not you, like you're playing a character. Like I was playing Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, who was like a 21-year-old, jobless socialist. And so I had to kind of embody her, and I had to know what she would have said and what she would have argued. And so I didn't have to memorize anything, like I didn't have to memorize where she was born, like when she was born, where she went to high school, all that stuff. I just had to understand the gist of her arguments and kind of like what she would have believed in. And that was really easy. So it's not a memorization class. You just have to know what you're talking about.
I would actually have to add one more thing too, is like Trevor said, it isn't memorization, but it's also because you're adding kind of your own improvisation to these characters. And I found a lot of myself in Jack Reed, and I think that a lot of us could possibly say the same to our other characters. But Jack Reed was a journalist who was kind of searching for adventure, searching for change, and really did not want a mundane lifestyle. And I found that that's kind of what I want too. And like, I think these interactive classes are important because you'll learn something not just about history, but you'll learn something about yourself too. And that can carry with you for the rest of your life.
Thank you, Luke. That was really, yeah, beautifully said. I think you're making me want to take the class now. Our time together is coming to an end. I did want to give space if Dorothee or Matthias or Kevin wants to add anything to close, but I just wanted to thank all of you for sharing your experiences and bringing us some lessons from the past today. It's a really, I think, timely and appropriate. So thank you so much.
Maybe I should go first and then leave Dorothee and Kevin the last word. I just want to say thanks to the students. The term is not quite over yet, but we have one more week, but I have felt so privileged to have you as my students in this FIG, and you were truly an amazing group, so thanks.
Yeah, I want to say thank you too. It's Thanksgiving and it is time to say thank you. And I think intellectual debate, that from my perspective is the only option and the only possibility to move towards the future. And that gives me hope. You all and all the students in my classroom give me hope for the future because that's in your hand. And if we can start dreaming about alternative ways of organizing our society, I think there is the way into a new, promising and hopefully happier social environment. So thank you for engaging into that activity. That's at least why I am here at the university, and I'm glad that the university allows us to start these discussions.
No, and I would just briefly say again, thank you to the students and to Dorothee and Matthias and Megan for hosting our session today. And I believe Megan has the contact information for any students or teachers who may like to learn more about reacting to the past at the University of Oregon. So please do follow up with us, and we're happy to share more about ways to get involved in reacting to the past, both here at the University of Oregon. There's also a wonderful kind of national consortium, Reacting, that you can visit their website as well. But we'd love to connect with you about how to become part of our reacting community at the U of O. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Yes, we have so many amazing resources to put. I'll put them all in the description for this video. So you can find the PowerPoint and the videos and the different resources Kevin has shared, resources on FIGs here at the university. So lots of good stuff that we'll add in there. But thank you so much. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and take care, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.